All right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Three Amigos Football Show. Today, as always, I have my two smiling faces friends. Uh, Coincidentally, they both have haircuts today, looking good. For sure. If you're not on YouTube, you cannot see these guys. Spotify has a video. You can definitely get on that as well. But you really need to see Hayo's face and his haircut. He's wearing a good vibes t-shirt. Amigo number one is on cloud nine. Really, really good. And Amigo number two,
Oh
nice
gosh.
haircut, handsome, smiling as always. He's not wearing a red shirt today. He's wearing blue. Maybe he's part of a. Has he changed his football
Nah,
club?
nah, nah. I'm not that type of fan.
Okay.
I was about to say because Manchester is.
No.
Ooh,
What a way to start. Okay. I can see where this is going.
wow,
I take
that
it
turned
back. I take it back.
sideways pretty fast. Okay. Well, since you have the guts to say Manchester is blue, why don't you take us away today, Mr. Good Vibes?
Hey, amigo numero uno, reporting for duty. It's been a little bit of time since our last podcast, and a lot of things have happened in the Premier League, and we're coming towards the end. At most, we got three more games, and the question now shifts to, you know, Europe. We have seven spots. Unfortunately, because the format of the Champions League is changing, there was a possibility that if the English teams could have done well, we could have got a fifth spot, and then the top five teams in Europe, sorry, in the Premier League would have qualified. But now we know that we're only going to get seven spots, and so technically, depending on how Manchester United do in the final, the top seven will qualify. First four to the Champions League. The next two, right, will go to the Europa League, and the uh, last spot will go to the EUCL. So currently in the Premier League, from the first, and I can go based on points, the first seven places, we have Arsenal on top, uh, as expected. Man City, a point behind, but also a game behind. Liverpool is 78 points. Aston Villa, Tottenham, Newcastle, followed by Chelsea, Man United, and West Ham. So from the points tally, it's probably guaranteed that the first three spots will go to Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool in yet undetermined order. Now the question is, obviously Aston Villa is pulling ahead for the fourth place. I find it doubtful that Tottenham will catch them. So let's just say everyone going into Europe would be Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, and Aston Villa. Now the question is, who will qualify for the Europa League? And it's a tight. So what do you guys think? Do you think? I mean, we have Amigo who is a lifelong Man United supporter. Do you think Man United can still qualify for Europe?
Based on what I've seen over the last month, I don't think so. I don't know where our goals are going to come from. I don't know where our clean sheets are going to come from. It just looks to me that there is a huge disconnect between what is happening on the field and what we should be seeing. It just also seems to
Based on
it's when you are watching something and you've had a past history of watching the same thing being good, and then all of a sudden you are watching something that you think should be good go absolutely terrible. That's what I'm seeing when I watch Manchester United these days. I feel like the coach says something and they do the complete opposite. Or they're just so scared that their decision making it just isn't there anymore. There's no chemistry, there's no cohesion, there's no flow, there's no rhythm. It's like they don't know what to do when they go on the field. That's what it looks to me like. It's like they've forgotten how to play the game. All they're doing is give it to me, I give you back, give it to me, I give you back. No one is taking risks. No one is taking the space to drive the ball forward. No one is taking the initiative. I'm not seeing give and goes. I'm not seeing switching the play. All I'm seeing is people keeping it between themselves with 5 yard passing. And I'm asking myself, okay, I know there's an excuse about injuries. Fine. That's why you have a squad. If your recruitment team and the coach should work together beginning of the season, you should have a squad. Now, if you're going to bring in youngsters, different conversation. Again, it goes back to the point I made in our previous podcast where I went into detail about how important it is to have a system. I don't see that system. By the way, amigos, please go check that out. Talked a lot about system and why it's so important for every team to have one. Liverpool has one. They've always done that. Even when they don't play well, they have that system. Arsenal, something happened in Dubai. I'm going to keep bugging Amigo One about that. They have a system and it's clear that it's working. United don't have a system. They just don't. And when you don't have a system, the mistakes start to happen. You have Onana going back to his previous period of mistakes. You have defenders that shouldn't be there. You have midfielders that are past their sell-by dates. I'm gonna try not to call names, but when you watch the game and the highlights, you can see what I'm talking about. And it just seems to me that at this point in time, there needs to be a recess. And I don't know if that reset is going to involve this coach. I don't, because I still go back to the comment he made mid-season when he was asked by one of the journalists, why aren't you playing the same football we saw at Ajax? And his answer was, because I just don't have the players to do so. Well, as a coach, my net thought process is, okay, you are in the season, you have this amount of players, you see them in training every time. You can't tell me that there are players in that club that can't keep possession like what we saw at Ajax. No matter if they're paid £350,000 a week or they're paid £50,000 a week, you cannot tell me that you can't have a session where you display certain drills with passing and possession to see who can keep the ball longer, to see who can progress the ball longer. You can't tell me that you and your staff cannot create an environment for that to happen. You can't.
We did.
Yeah.
Amigo number two. My question was, will Man United qualify?
I mean, this is how passionate I
I,
am about this club, right?
I
You
have to
know,
help because my brother is spiraling.
this is what this club has done to me. Simple
It's like
question. Can they, can
I've seen the fly. It's like
at the end of the day,
we'll,
it goes back to,
we'll come back. We need to come back to this because that's a bigger. I mean, we all watched that game on Burns, and it was very interesting. Like I saw
Yeah.
Evans and Casemiro as centre back pairing, and I was like, okay, that's gonna probably be the most of our podcast this week. But before we get there, though, let's just. Do you think is there any chance that Man United can make even the EUCL next season? Do you think they can in this next three games? I mean, they have to play. What's their next game? They have to play. I know they have to play Arsenal, the second
they're
to the last game, but I don't know who. So
Yeah.
we're actually next. Oh wow, wonderful. So
They
you got to
got
play us
Newcastle.
next. You got to play Newcastle, which I think is a pivotal game, right? Because that's a
yes.
6 point swing right there. Because like not only are you getting 3 points, you're taking points away from the other team, and then you play Brighton. So with that in mind, do you think you can make it for the last European spot to at least play in Europe, make a Thursday night game? Do you think that's possible, Mita?
If we are using the table, there is a possibility we can, because West Ham
Yeah,
isn't doing well right now.
so I don't think West Ham is in a running at all.
Yeah, so there's
I
a
think
possibility.
it's between you and Chelsea.
Yeah, and the way Chelsea's playing right now, I don't see them looking back. I don't. They are playing. They are playing well. They are scoring goals. They're on a good rhythm. So I don't see if you're just using the table. I don't. I can only see us making the Conference League. I am not even going to think about FA Cup with Man
I,
City. I'm not even going to
I
start
think the
thinking of.
Conference League is the seventh spot. I don't think you're going to
Yeah,
make it at number eight. Yeah.
which is again just the. This just shows you the state of affairs that the club is in right now. It's in shambles. It really is. Not
Yeah.
just off the field, but on the field as well.
So your belief is Man United won't make it, and so it will be left with I guess from five to seven, it'll be Tottenham, Newcastle, and Chelsea, and
Yeah,
I don't know, Chelsea on a roll. You can see a swap between Chelsea and Newcastle. But yeah. So Sam, do you agree with his assessment? Do you think that's our top seven nailed in, and Man United have to try again next year?
I think there's a possibility of Man United getting up there. The game against Newcastle, and let me look. Man United is going to be away, is that right?
They're
Uh,
going to be at home, I believe, too. Let me bring it up.
yeah,
so, because when you look at it, it's just 2 points between Man United and Newcastle. If Man United can get a 1-0 win over Newcastle, and I'm not
I
trying to be
doubt that.
positive here.
I doubt
I
that.
know Newcastle and Chelsea are on fire, but Chelsea is unstable. You know, they've got some good strides lately, but Chelsea is more or less like Man United. The reason why people are not talking so much about Chelsea is because of, hey, they just got a new coach and they have a wonder kid. To answer your question, I see it. I see Man United getting up there. Chelsea can sleep. Newcastle can sleep. A tie in that game would boost Man United's confidence. But now the problem is, can they beat Brighton? If they can beat Brighton, excuse me, they'll go up. Just get a draw. Just get a draw with against Newcastle, or get a 1-0 win. Beat Brighton. You'll be good. That's my thought. I think they have a good chance. But now, when you look at the formation, when you look at the players right now, I don't, I don't, I'm on 50-50, honestly, because Casemiro, Evans, a center back is not gonna cut it. Yeah,
So you do feel like, even though they're that low, there's an outside chance of at least making a European
absolutely,
spot. So not even a conference, even maybe even Europa. That's the way you're
absolutely.
speaking about this. It's such a swing. So
Yeah,
we'll see as it goes. Personally, uh, I almost want to second uh Sam's. I almost want to second Sam's assessment that Man United have a fighting chance. I would just say that Newcastle's form of late has been very, very strong. And I really don't see them because it's not almost like it's out of 9 points. So I mean, Man United, like I don't know if they're going to get another centre back fit by the time they play Arsenal, or Fernandez is going to be fit uh, by the time they reach Arsenal. But if they feel this kind of team, that's only going to go one way. Uh,
there's no
and so
miracle that's gonna turn the game against Arsenal around.
anything is
Just
possible. I personally think anything is possible. I wanted them to win today so that they'd go to Arsenal, well, or Arsenal, or they'll play Arsenal with like a false sense of confidence. I'd have actually preferred that. So when you lose this badly, you almost have to prove something to yourself, and that's not the attitude I wanted when what's it called? They played Arsenal. I wanted them to come in relaxed and cocky, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But okay, so I agree. I think Man United might still be able to do that, but they are at the mercy of Chelsea's and Newcastle's performance. And if their current form holds, then I don't see that working out. But if it does, we'll see. So moving on to that, I know we got to address the elephant in our room, in the room, Man United. I mean, we all saw that game. We all saw that starting lineup. Uh, I mean, Johnny Evans. I didn't know he was still playing. I thought he was retired. Is he? Is he? Did they bring him out of retirement? Like, when did he come back to Man United? I thought he did a testimonial. Did they not do a testimonial for him like 2 seasons ago?
I see what
How,
you're doing. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
To be fair,
Let me go ahead.
to be fair, everybody in Man United's team right now, almost everybody's looking like they just getting back from retirement. To be honest,
Oh my
Casemiro,
gosh.
Varane. It looks like we have a bunch of older folks, people that they've done well in the sport. But how do you put Evans, who has not done anything in the game, still in Man United on the payroll, and put him out there to get a great performance? I get it, you are limited with options right now, but come on, stop bringing up young guys.
before we even go and address, I think I want to ask Vita this question because I was trying to think about it. I was like, okay, I see, defenders coming back. Uh, I see Martinez coming back, right? And he
Mhm.
occupies that spot. But that becomes a problem because that's also Maguire's spot. And so you move Maguire to the other side, and that makes him much weaker. Then that's not even a counterpart. Like, you can't defend on the front foot as well. So I'm like, even with injuries, so do you think like the majority of this is injuries or this squad is very weak? I personally am leaning towards a very weak squad, but are there any people you've seen, like, you mentioned the young defender the other time. I haven't really seen too much of Ahmad, but he looks like a talent. Like, do you think this is a problem of a weak squad, or you're going through a once in a lifetime injury crisis? How would you gauge those two possibilities?
Those two things are part of the symptom of a bigger problem. That's how I see it. The problem is decision making. Those things you've mentioned are the symptoms of lack of proper decision making. Yes, injury has had an issue with the squad. It just has. And I question the integrity of the medical staff in that club. I do. I also challenge the coach and what they do in training in terms of recovery in between games, right? And at the same time, I also blame Ten Hag and his coach from a recruiting standpoint,
Hmm.
and also the club in general in decision making. Because number one, when you have a squad, you need to have a combination of young players, experienced players, a few aging players that have the ability to encourage the mid-age ones and the younger ones to improve, and kind of like a good succession plan, right? That's what United has been always been good at for years during Sir Alex Ferguson time. They had a succession plan for every position. There was always a young star or someone they wanted to buy that could fit that position, and there was someone that was old enough to mentor both of them, right? That was how it was.
I,
Now,
I will I will push back on that. I was thinking about I was watching last week. They just qualified today. PSG versus Dortmund.
yes,
Not today's game, last week's game. And I've been hearing this Saka, Cole Palmer, Foden, who's better? And I've never understood that argument because I'm like, Foden and Palmer are not wingers. Like, if
they're
you
not.
put Foden on the wing, you put Palmer on the wing. I'm happy as a opposition coach. Like, let them be there all day. They won't do nothing. Saka is a problem on the wing. Saka is a true winger. I was like, there's no one in England, right, that
Hmm.
can challenge them. But then I'm watching this Dortmund PSG game, and I'm seeing this phenom, this absolute brilliant winger. He is doing tricks. He's confident. He's doing take-ons. He's going back. And they told me he's English. And I'm like, wow, such a great talent. And they're like, oh, that's Sancho. I was like, isn't that a Manchester United player? And I'm like, but they spent money. This is someone like on his A game, he might even be better than Saka. Didn't Man United spot him, buy him, bring him into the club, and over 2 years do nothing? And then I start thinking about Lukaku. I started looking like you guys had Di Maria. Di Maria is a god. You had him at a point. Like and you start like mentioning names and going through, and you're like, is it a recruitment issue though? It's like, or does Man United now have a track record of bringing world class talents, not knowing what to do with them, and then selling them at a loss, or giving them to a team to win a Champions League with?
And there goes the point right there. Again, these recruitments have been somewhat okay until Ten Hag came in. But again, those
Hmm.
are just symptoms. The issue is we don't have a system. And we've changed so many coaches that has disrupted that flow of having a system, right? Those players are good players, regardless of their personality outside on the field, right?
Hmm.
The Sancho one, I blame both of them. Trying to answer your question.
Hmm.
Sancho is good. He can play on the wing, he can play as a 10, he can play as a false 9, he can play on the left. Ten Hag has favoritism. That's one thing I will plague against him. When a player isn't playing well, and you give him one or two chances, and he still doesn't play well, drop them. Play players that are biting on the bit to want to play and they're performing.
Hmm.
If they have a body language, coach them to out of that body language. Coach them out of it. And that's another issue I have with Ten Hag. It seems to me that he has a problem picking up talent to buy them. He may have a talent of bringing players from the academy. He may have a strength there, but buying someone that he doesn't know but is good enough to play, I feel like that's his problem. Because if you notice, every player that he has bought is someone he knows.
Hmm.
If you think about it, it's someone he knows. He hasn't bought someone that is out of the box. I'm going to coach this person. I see something in this person. Again, these are
Let me
symptoms
let me throw
of a bigger
let me
problem.
throw that back. Let me throw that back at you, Mide. So saying someone you're buying players you know, and you say that I don't necessarily interpret that as a negative thing, right? It's looking at proven qualities. So Arteta, for example, the first thing he wanted to do, whenever he tried to bring Arsenal out of where we were, was that he went back to Man City, players that he knew, right? He went for what's it called for Jesus. He went for Zinchenko. Whenever he started doing what's it called Declan Rice, it was because he understood West Ham and he knew that Declan Rice had been trained by someone he respected. He was a former Man United coach. I forget his name. He's still the
David
coach of
Moyes.
West Ham now.
David
David
Moyes.
Moyes, right? That he
Well,
respected. David Moyes
well,
coach Arteta. Sorry.
well, not anymore. Not anymore. After yesterday, it's Lopetegui now.
Yeah, yes. Well, I mean, errors start and end, right? And so he knew that, and so he brought that. Like for me, it felt that he's actually not pulling the trigger on people who are up in the air. He's finding people that are very known quantities, and I feel like if you know a player, you trust them, you know what to expect. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's is it maybe that Man United fans are a little impatient?
It's part of it. It's definitely part
Because
of it.
Arteta had two seasons. His first two seasons, one was 8, the other was 6. Right? He was trying to like clear out, and at certain points we had Pablo Mari. As our centre back, we had like really weird players, and nothing was working, and we had to like clear like 90% of the squad to build something that actually made sense. So, do you think it's just a little bit of patience?
Sam, go ahead.
I don't think it's impatience from the club, from the fans. When you look at this season for Man United, in addition to what media said, this is the kind of game that I get it when I look at the lineup. The only thing that I'm seeing here is Evans and Casemiro as centre back. I get it. I get it from the defensive point of view, defensive mindset point of view. But it should not be the game that Man United will crash. Let's be honest. Come on, you got your forward is there, you got Garnacho. No, let's look at the result. The problem that I'm seeing is the coach is a problem. He has problem with player development, like Midday said earlier. Um,
Mhm.
I agree with you, Ayo. Like, yeah, Ateta went to Man City, bought some guys that he's used to, and all of that. I get it. Um, you can't compare that system with uh, uh, Man United. The problem that I'm seeing is Man United is maybe a little bit of impatient here. Man United is this high expectation, and also they've gotten used to being uh permit my lack of good word now, being ridiculed. And the point is, this game, there's no hunger in them anymore. The only person that is hungry, and you can see that his absence in this game actually cost them a lot, is Fernandez. I don't like him as a player, but he's the most hungry Man United player right now. So there's no hunger. This game, they've gotten used to it. Coach is used to, yeah, it's the result that we get. We put in our best efforts. We see don't. That's why when they interviewed him like a couple of games ago, it was basically just like saying, "Yeah, I don't have the players, but change it." So is the coach. The reason why I can lean towards impatience is Man United has spent so much on players and coach before he got here. For him, there's high expectation. But once things start falling apart, he just doesn't have the player development to help them out to grow and get the results. Because if he has that player development skills, Sancho would not have gone. The reason why I say I think he's the coach is because Sancho is an England player. On rare occasion would you see an England player just go like that. And two, he's a talented player. You have to be able to coach these guys to get the results that you want. So when you can't get the results that you want, everyone is kind of used to that failing, failing, failing. That's why you see these results. No hunger in the players. So it's a player thing, but more of the coach. The coach just got to go. That's my thoughts.
I won't maybe if I move the conversation along. I will say, watching Sancho, that's the first time I really doubted, what's it called? Ten Hag. That was the first time I doubted because, when all these spats are happening, it's like he said, she said. you know, whenever Arsenal got rid of players, like it was clear they were done. Like when Ozil left, he went to was it Fenerbahce and he just sucked, and then they released him. When you get released from the Turkish league, like that's how bad you're playing. We knew how Aubameyang did. I mean, he's resurging now, but and respect to him, but like he's not the player he was. Like I said, you see how these players play afterwards, so it's almost like validating of the coach's judgment. And then you have the Ronaldo thing happen, and then you have the Sancho thing happen, and you just see how tremendously talented this player is, and then it makes you doubt whether his assessment is correct. On the other hand, I would say, and think about this, Man United have always struggled when they try to play on the front foot. So that's since their Ferguson left. Because you always have a new coach, and even Ten Hag did on the first season, where it's like, okay, we will absorb pressure, right, and counter, absorb pressure and counter, which works on the top teams and it works in competitions, right? But whenever you're going to play a league, there are other teams that are worse than you, and they say, okay, come at me, bro. And then Man United faltered. And every time it was like Solskjaer won the next season, when everyone was like, oh, he's so much worse, I felt really bad for him because no, he's trying to make the transition. He's moving from absorb pressure and counter to we're going to dictate how this game is going to go. And whenever you're going through that phase, it can backfire for a while. Like look at Tottenham, right? Look at how they just got trounced 3 weeks in a row. They got battered, seriously battered. Do you want him to go backwards or forwards? right? That's the question you always have to understand because are there two or three players that you bring in and it suddenly makes sense, right? Arsenal, you bring in Havertz, you bring in Declan Rice, and it suddenly makes sense. Like Saliba starts and it suddenly makes sense. Liverpool bring in Van Dijk and Allison and it suddenly makes sense, right? Whereas like you also do you keep moving forward or you retreat? And I see just without a Sancho thing, a a coach that just wants to play in a set way and he just doesn't have the tools. And I am sorry if you're bringing in Ahmad, you're bringing in Johnny Evans, Casemiro as your defender. I agree with them. That squad is not deep. That is a very light squad. There's nobody you're going to bring into that. Like, are you telling me that you sit back and absorb pressure with Johnny Evans and Casemiro? And you get walloped even worse. Like you want to play an expansive game, you get countered even worse. Olise and Eze are operating at such a high level right now. I saw them 2 weeks ago. I saw them 3 weeks ago. Those guys are ballers. So against Casemiro, you
Yeah.
do it. So I personally don't know how I feel about Ten Hag. I don't know if it's his fault.
I think maybe you can jump on this. I think the coach got to go. A lot of people in the media are knocking Casemiro that Casemiro's got to go. I get it. Casemiro is almost done. Uh, but the formation just doesn't look like you want to win. It doesn't look like you've done your research on Crystal Palace. These guys are informed. We talked about them the last show, like before Man United game. How do you have Ericsson that is not a defensive mindset player? I feel like it's just you two open in the middle. I know he's Anthony shouldn't be in that game, to be honest, but he's limited with option. This is the game that Man United should actually be more defensive because you're coming against an opponent that is on fire. You're on their tough right now. You actually should be defensive and be looking for that, you know, counter attack.
Counter?
I don't. I'm looking at the formation now. It's just like, oh no, this is not looking good. You should actually try to shift Ericsson to more in the middle. And coach media, you can jump on after this. Honestly, shift Ericsson to the middle. Mano should not be looking to support Anthony. No, should be like playing more defensive. Let Anthony do all his run. If he's gonna be in this game, let him do the work. So that's my thoughts. And I know that I'm a defensive mindset guy. Mide,
I
what do you
appreciate.
have as we wrap up? Yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead.
just before
Yeah.
Mida goes on, I think Mino was a big problem because he wasn't suited to the role he played. He could have. He's not a defensive-minded midfielder, and anytime he took defensive positions, Crystal Palace buoyed him.
Yeah.
So sorry, before I made that, I think it's just a player. I don't know who's going to play that position. So, yeah,
All right,
you know,
Coach
what do you think?
Mide,
Yeah.
save your
Mhm.
coach and save us as we wrap up.
And that lies the underlying problem. You all have said everything that absolutely I agree with you. Decision making. That's the problem. He doesn't have a system. He doesn't have players to play in that system. So he's trying to find different people to to try to come up with something. Manu shouldn't be playing that position. First of all, and I'll put myself in these shoes. My older girls that I coach, we're not doing well right now. We're not. And it's a combination of different things, right? Which I'm not going to go into. But we're not doing well. But what I've realized is I've spoken to my assistant coach that coached them a couple of years ago. Spoke to another coach that was with them 2 years ago about when they were playing well, what formation did they play and who played where. And they gave me the feedback. And I went back to the drawing board and I realized, you know what, Mide, this formation isn't working. They are not scoring goals and they're doing their best to defend, but they're still conceding, right? Why not make them more attacking? Put two players up top, put three players behind them, put two players behind those three that can distribute the ball, long and short passes. Then the three defenders you have behind them, make them quick and make them compact. in my mind, I'm like, okay, so my next tournament, I know what I'm going to do and I know who I'm going to play based on what I have. That's what Ten Hag should do. You have a system. Find players, regardless if they're young or old. Find players to play in that system. Now, if you don't have that right now, change the formation, and then once the season is over, if you're still in the job, have a reset. Find players, find a system. That's number one. Then find players to play in that system. Now, if it takes 2 transfer windows, so be it. But the club in general have to improve with their decision making, because all these things we're talking about now that you're seeing, these are just symptoms of an underlying problem. The problem is decision making.
Last question today. If say you're Ineos and you know the amount of money, let's say 400 million required to rebuild the squad, give or take, would you trust Ten Hag to do it?
From what I've seen, no. Unless he has some type of footballing director that works with him and a structured recruitment team, and they all work together and he doesn't pick players that he only knows from the Eredivisie. Maybe, and he doesn't have veto on transfers and they get players to play his system. So again, the question is, Ten Hag, what is your system? That's the question. Then let's find players that fit that system. But if they're going to make a decision and it's him, no, I wouldn't.
I agree with you because we haven't even seen if his system can work uh, in the Premier League to begin with, and I don't think Man United can afford many mistakes.
Right.
But
Right. And to your point, Ayo, and I'll say this, right? And this would be my resting point. Look at Olivier Glazer, the Crystal Palace coach. He came in within a space of 3 months. He has a system. He has a formation. He has players playing in that system and in that formation. They
and
have
he played
beaten.
to their strengths.
He plays to their strengths. He knows how strong Mateta is off the ball. He knows Olise and Eze can play the channels and come in whenever they want. He has 4 players behind them that can go back and go forward. The 3 defenders behind them are quick enough with recovery speed. He knows what he wants. He has them playing combinations. I see triangles everywhere on the field. He has them shooting from inside the box and outside of the box. He has a
Hmm.
system. He does. He
The
just does.
basics. Oh, you're giving me a lot to think about. I'm sure. I'm sure Sam feels the same way.
Absolutely.
When you explain it that way, it does make sense. But we're out of time. I just love talking about soccer with you guys. Let's keep coming on here, discussing and plotting our redemption arc. Well, thank you so much. Sam, do you wanna close this out?
All right, amigos, you guys know Man United doesn't have a system, but we have an identity. Make sure you subscribe, follow, send this to your football loving friends, and come on back here. Who knows? You never know. That's the beauty of the game,
Sure.
and also it
Hmm.
comes with a pen. So you never know. Don't feel like you're on top of the world. We're winding down now. Last positive thought from you, Midday. We really need to hear something positive.
As always, they'll always put a smile on my face. Soccer, football isn't easy, especially from a coaching standpoint. It's not easy. You have to make decisions. You have to learn from your mistakes. You have to learn from your experiences. And you have to stick to what you know. You find players that can play in that system and you just keep working on it. Even when things go wrong, you keep staying positive. You keep encouraging the players. And I will always be a red. No matter how bad they are, I will always be a red. But
Even though
again,
you're wearing
amigos,
blue, though.
thank you. There we go. On that note, amigos, continue to encourage me at this point because apparently these amigos are not. Anyways, thank you guys.